Thank you so much, Peg. I just wanted to add a word of welcome from all of us to Bill. Well known in the Mountain Cloud community, you could say a pillar or maybe a sequoia there. I can't actually remember how long ago it was that I met Bill. It was long before COVID, during one of the North American Sambo Zen retreats that Mountain Cloud hosted. And, wonderful, warm to meet him. And then the chance to sit together has been really quite wonderful, strong over the years. Bill has been for decades at Mountain Cloud, many, many decades, and for at least a decade worked with Henry. And then for these last couple of years, I've had the great pleasure, joy, privilege of checking in with Bill from time to time for Doksan or just a conversation. He recently wrote a little introduction about himself for our teacher training, and I learned little bits and pieces about his life that I didn't know. He was born in Chicago in the early 50s, and at age 6, his family moved to Northern California. He said a word about his fine parents, and I think he was it the 7th of 8 children in that family. And he wrote that he had nurtured an early appreciation for silence and solitude. So after making it through, as he said, high school, he took off for the Rocky Mountains and spent a long time there being deeply nurtured by that landscape. And then ended up in northern New Mexico, living for 10 years in a teepee. I did know that piece. And working as a carpenter when there was need. Eventually married, had a family, and work as a carpenter really kind of became his main day gig. Along the way, early on, it turned out that his boss, his carpenter boss, was a Zen student. And he invited Bill to go to a session, I think it was in or near Amarillo. Bill had no clue what he was getting into. I've heard that before, but I think it was just a weekend and he barely survived it, as he put it. But he came away fully immersed in this practice. Some of you will have heard a talk that Bill offered to us last year on a case in the Mumonkan that asks, why do we put on the 7-panel robe at the sound of the bell, the sound of the temple bell? And Bill took that koan and trained the light of it on ecology, on the climate disaster, and on the human heart. If you haven't heard it, I know it's available still on YouTube. Many people were deeply affected. So, it's a real offering to give a talk in one's own community. We're very, very grateful. And so on behalf of all of us, welcome, Bill, and thank you.
Yeah, that was quite an introduction. I won't make any corrections, but someday privately I'll give you the real scoop and all that. But yeah, that was close. So anyway, I want to dedicate this talk to my teachers, Henry Schuckman and Valerie Forsman, who are just wise, compassionate, skilled, and are leading us from the heart. You know, we couldn't be more fortunate here to have them as our teachers. And I wanted to also dedicate this talk to my mom, who would have been 105 years old yesterday. I consider her my first teacher and spiritual guide. And yeah, her memory and her presence is a treasure, you know. Also, I want to dedicate this to Thich Nhat Hanh, who played such a seminal role in our lives the last, as long as we've been alive, pretty much. To me, he was a living saint. And we were so fortunate to live in a time when he was walking the planet. You know. Really, you know, his activism, his engaged Buddhism, that was his term. I think it influenced the whole world powerfully. I want to dedicate this also to Abigail Adler, our Mountain Cloud Sangha member, my friend, and a dear Dharma sister that slipped away a couple weeks ago. Her smile, it could light me up. And she reminded me of my sister, Mary, who also passed away. And they were both just really beautiful women, you know, kind and tough as nails. So, and lastly, dedicate this to my grandson, Andre Justice Bruce. So, it's for y'all. An honorable assembly, thank you for being here. So, I'm going to start off with a little story from Charles Eisenstein, who is an author, an activist, and a visionary thinker, just a brilliant man that I'm so happy that he's alive and helping us see clearly, see more clearly. You know. And he's the author of the book and that line that goes, "A more beautiful world our hearts know is possible." So anyway, Charles, he's describing our present situation on the planet here as, you know, mankind or humanity is on this great ship on the ocean. And we're caught in this whirlpool on this ship, and we're getting sucked in, you know, a little more all the time, but we're in danger. And in this downward spiral, in order to escape, you know, we can do this, we can get out of this, but it's going to take everybody to grab an oar and row together and pull this ship out of this whirlpool. Everybody working together in one direction. we can pull this ship and right it. But the situation on the deck is just a big brawl. Everyone's just fighting. And, there's the good guys or the good team, team bad, team good, vice versa. And we're so caught up in this brawl that we're losing the battle on this whirlpool. This polarization is dangerous. And so that's the situation that kind of prompted me, that story, that to choose the topic for tonight's talk, which is the Noble Eightfold Path, which was the Buddha's first teaching after his awakening. And he went and found his old comrades, these 5 ascetics, and he said, I have something to share. And so that was when this is the first teaching. And it was like this. So the Noble Eightfold Path, this is the 4th noble truth called Marga, or the path. And the first element or first arm of this path is right view. And I'm going to follow Thich Nhat Hanh's a lecture he gave about the the Eightfold Noble Path, Noble Eightfold Path. And I'm going to call Thich Nhat Hanh, I'm going to call him Thai, because that's his nickname. And it'll make things easier. Because I'll be quoting him here and there, and so we'll see. So, right view. These are Thai's words mostly. Right view is free of all wrong views, which are born from notions of opposites like coming and going, birth and death, up and down, self and other. So it's non-dual. Right view is an insight. It liberates us from all kinds of discrimination, from all dualism. Thai says, we're no longer caught between left, right, above, below, white and black, outside. It removes all the pairs of opposites, it brings them all into one. And Thai says, this is the ultimate truth, this right view. He says another name for it is nirvana, or cessation, or maha prajna paramita. And those, nirvana is cessation. Maha prajna paramita would translate maha being great, prajna being wisdom, non-dual wisdom, the highest form of wisdom, and paramita meaning perfection, or another meaning of paramita is gone beyond. So this great insight that has the power to transport us to the other shore, that's what he's getting at, to the shore of freedom. Let's see. When when I first realized what I was getting into, I didn't realize right view was such a profound element. It's nothing short of an awakened view. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit above my pay grade here to be talking about this great awakening of right view, and seemed pretty naive of me to even attempt a talk on the Noble Eightfold Path. But I'm already committed, so here we go, but that really surprised me how profound right view is in this path. So I wrote down, so we're talking about enlightened, awakened perspective, informing all the other elements of the path. For me, to come to right view, personally, the best, the best I can do is just, let go of that self, of that little clinging self, and get to that place where there's no separation. There's no self separating me from everything else. And that's we just sit with all of it, as all of it, and that's the view. We we sit, we let our minds settle, we let the mud settle, as they say, and we interbe with all of it. We come to stillness. That still place inside. There's no inside or outside, but it feels like it's inside. And we're alert. We're still and alert, and that's right view, I think. So the next three elements, I thought I'd take them all three together. They are right thinking, right speech, and right action. And all of these are action. Thinking is action. Speech is action. And the action refers to, the physical body action. So the karma, the Sanskrit word for action is karma. So these actions that create karma. So right thinking is basically, for me, my understanding, it's just basically thinking good thoughts, beneficial thoughts, thoughts with no discrimination, no thoughts of self and other, no us and them. Tai says, you are in me, I am in you. So we can produce healing thoughts, loving thoughts, helpful thoughts, thoughts producing understanding and compassion. That's right thinking. So right speech, again, with the foundation of the right view, we practice right speech. We practice producing healing words, heal ourselves, heal others. We practice loving words, words to help others who suffer less, help them suffer less. We practice inspiring speech, speech to restore communication, speech to reconcile differences, speech that produces happiness. Tai says, say things like, and he gives these examples. He says, darling, I'm here for you. Or, darling, I'm so glad you're here. Or, darling, I know you are having difficulties, and know that I am here for you. So sweet, no? So writing letters and emails, text messages, all opportunities to practice right speech. Tai says, be generous. Okay, right action. Action of the physical body. So again, informed by right view, we practice right action. With no sense of I, we're free to respond appropriately with our bodies. Lots of opportunities to practice right action. Just random acts of kindness, like making sure there's water for the wild things, or visiting a friend who's sick, or taking care of a family member who needs help, saving an insect, things like that, right action. And I thought I'd tell the story about Sujata, the milkmaid, since just to remember a real cool example of right action. So when Siddhartha was still a practicing ascetic, he was at one point he was starving to death, and he fell into a ditch, and he didn't have the strength to get up. And at that same time, this young woman is going by, and she sees this homeless dude, this monk who is near death. He's starving to death, and she's on her way to make an offering to the forest gods. And her mom gave her a dish of milk and rice. And she was going to make that offering to the forest gods. So she has this food with her, and so right away she offers this food to Siddhartha, and he accepts it and takes it in, and she comes back in the next few days and brings food, some more food, and she slowly nurses him back to health. And this simple, natural act of kindness that is a fine example of right action. And it may have that's how right action can change the world. It had a huge effect on the young Siddhartha. as you can imagine. So these three kinds of action, what we think, what we say, what we do, they produce causes that produce effects. They are causes that produce effects. And we produce, they say, karmic seeds. That's one way of looking at it. And I'm going to read from a book. This is called Inside Vasubandhu's Yogacara. It's an excellent book. I really like it. Practitioner's Guide. It's about the 30 verses on consciousness only. And we're going to read about the store consciousness. This is the actual text from Vasubandhu. It goes, the first of these is also called alaya, the store consciousness, which contains all karmic seeds. What it holds and its perception of location are unknown. So the author, Ben Connolly, he goes on to say, the store consciousness, excuse me, the store consciousness is a way of describing how past conditions come together to form our present experience. We can think of it as an unconscious aspect of our life that colors and is the basis for that of which we are conscious. It is where all the impressions of the past, our karmic seeds, are constantly involved in a process of transformation that our mind believes to be reality. The concept of this aspect of consciousness is a model for understanding why we act the way we do. But most importantly, it addresses the issue of how we can transform or let go of afflictive emotions. As we will see in later chapters, we can cultivate karmic seeds that are conducive to happiness and kindness through mindfulness and a gentle approach of letting go of harmful tendencies. Thus, we can transform the contents of the storehouse so that our unconscious tends to produce peace and harmony rather than anxiety, aggravation, and dissatisfaction. So that's the storehouse where all those karmic seeds reside. Ty had a different image. He put the storehouse in the basement, and we're in the living room, kind of. And you know, these seeds would come up through the ceiling of the basement into the living room, you know. And it's yeah. Anyway, you get the picture. So let me find my place here. Oh yeah. So our thoughts, our speech, our actions, producing karmic seeds. So we are our actions. Beautiful thoughts, beautiful speech, beautiful action produces beautiful karmic seeds. we can make each other happy. We can heal ourselves. We can heal each other. We can heal the whole world. We sit every day, meditate to continue to clarify and deepen our right view, to inform this karmic producing aspect of the path. Tai says, these effects can come quickly. You know, the effects of our good seeds, they don't have to sit in that storehouse long. They can be immediate sometimes. How we can affect the world. So, again, we are our actions. This is Tai talking. He says, this is our continuation, our actions, our karma. When our bodies disintegrate, we continue always with our actions, our karmic seeds. Quoting Tai, so when you see this body of mine disintegrate, don't think that Tai is no longer there. Tai is still there in new forms. And look at his actions. His actions continue here. So all of us, he says, all of us should see that we do not end at all with the disintegration of this body. We continue more or less beautifully, depending on how we practice. So that brings me to a story I'd like to tell about. I had an ice cream with my grandson, Andre, not too long ago. My little sister was visiting, and so I took the three of us to the plaza in Santa Fe, and we went to Haagen-Dazs and we got ice creams. You know? And so we're sitting in Haagen-Dazs, and Andre and I, you know, we love dulce de leche. That's our favorite. So we're happy as clams, you know, eating our ice creams. And he says to me, he says, Grandpa, if you eat vegetables, you'll live longer. I said, oh, good to know. He says, yep. He says, in fact, if you eat vegetables today, you'll add 1 day to your life. You'll live 1 day longer. I said, really? He said, yep. And then he says, we don't really die. We just turn into other stuff. I said, wow. He says, did you know, Grandpa, that the antelope eats the lion? I said, no, I didn't know that. He says, yep. He says, see, here's how it works. He says, the lion dies and his body just turns into dirt, and it nourishes the dirt, and then the grasses grow up, and then the antelope eat the grass. I said, wow, man. You know, I looked at him, I said, man, you know what? He said, what? I said, you are all right. He said, I know, Grandpa. So anyway, yeah. I'm going to read another little bit from a book here. This is The Feeling Buddha. I don't know if you can see that, but it's by David Brazier. It's an older one, maybe 25 years old. And this is under the heading of right speech. Goes, inspiration is closely associated with aspiration. When we are inspired, we aspire. When we aspire, it is much easier for things to inspire us. The two go together. Right speech is the utterance of inspiration and aspiration. In Buddhism, the utterance of aspiration is called a vow. Vows are out of fashion in the modern materialistic world because they do not fit into the horizontal dimension. A vow is an unconditional commitment. It goes beyond calculation. It is a statement that I will, ... no matter what the odds against me may be. When we vow something, we take it on in a total way. A vow is not a prediction of success. He goes on. This is a vow because it is made unconditionally. As a matter of fact, the person does not know whether it is possible to fulfill the vow. A vow is not conditioned upon possibility. A vow comes from a depth of feeling. A vow connects our little life to a big story. It becomes a central organizing force. It sets a person on a path. All effort is directed toward its accomplishment. The person's sense of identity changes. In this case, he has become a peace warrior. The quality of even the ordinary things of life changes. He or she is constantly aware of the way in which every action does or does not contribute to the cause. She is in the grip of a powerful inspiration. People who are inspired in this way, like Gandhi, for instance, often achieve seeming miracles. Their energy all flows one way. The vow has an organizing effect upon character. This one last line. The difference between a person who lives by vow and a person who does not is like the difference between a piece of ordinary iron and a magnet. So, yeah, that's perhaps the most powerful right speech there. So, I made this little diagram. I don't. It helped me. So here's right view, and here's the three actions: thought, speech, and physical action. Body, speech. What is that? Mind. All making karma and karma seeds and stuff. And I guess you can't read that very well. Anyway, we're not going to get to right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, or right concentration, I don't think. Because time's getting on. But I wanted to close, I wanted to make a vow myself. I've made my vows, many years ago, maybe 23 years ago. the vows, the 16 vows of the Bodhisattva, let's say, but I think it's good to refresh them, to kind of infuse them again. And I wanted to make one simple vow, and tonight. And my vow is this. So I vow with all my heart to help bring forth the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. With our right view, with our beneficial actions, I think we can disentangle ourselves from this big brawl on the deck of the ship, you know. Just let that all go. You don't have to be right or wrong or whatever. Just grab an oar. Grab an oar and paddle for all your work. And you'll join others who will be paddling, and others will join you. And hopefully we'll reach a tipping point where enough people are paddling, we'll pull ourselves out of this mess, you know. Well, that's my prayer and my greatest hope. For you know, for my grandson and my sons, and for all of your sons and grandsons, and so on for the next 7 generations or more, you know. We can do this. We just have to work together, and we take the long view and start every day, every moment, you know, making these good decisions, beneficial actions, then I think that's a good start. It's a good path. And that's the end of my talk. So thank you all. Thank you all for your attention.